talk about constructionism. I've actually created a two-part sequence to this. Hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at the Symbaloo with some of the collected resources that are there to construct your own meaning of this topic. I want to help facilitate your thinking throughout this by the first part that I've created in breaking down and unpacking the meaning and purpose of constructionism, give you a little bit of background and a thread in some connections that we've had with class. And then the second part I want to get into is practical applications on where we could see this in classrooms. And I'm going to use my own classroom and my own school as guinea pig towards this project. So in taking a look at what this specific slides are going to be offering you today, I wanted to go into what is constructionism. I want to talk about the big eight, or the big eight ideas surrounding constructionism, and also the purpose and connections we can make with this learning theory. Before getting into the meaning and purpose, I thought I would share a quote by Dr. Seymour Papert. Papert is basically the creator, the guru, the name behind this learning theory. And I thought this was a really good way to kind of frame the discussion and frame the ideas behind constructionism, as I know I connected a lot with this quote itself. So let me share. Connecting new knowledge to things you know and love and things you can think to do makes you feel good about it, makes you take it in a form that is your own. By taking in knowledge in a form that feels to you as you change your feelings about yourself as well. You no longer think of yourself as somebody who can do math but doesn't really understand poetry, or can draw but doesn't have a head for numbers. Instead, you appropriate all knowledge in a form that's yours, that you can do, that you can love. Through loving what you know, you love yourself more. So what is constructionism? If you take a look to the right, you're going to see a picture of some of the kids that I work with currently right now in Hayworth. They're working with Lego Mindstorms in their technology class. I'll talk more about that in the practical applications of that and how that fits the structure of constructionism. But to address what it is, like I said before, Dr. Seymour Papert is basically the guru, or the name behind the learning theory, but he also worked very closely with Piaget, which we all know is associated with constructivism. Dr. Papert's extension of constructivism basically connects to the use and integration of technology when constructing and building meaning. He claims it's the making and tinkering of learning, the failures and the successes of actually creating some sort of form of learning, and not so much the creating of meaning, but also a product in result of that creation. As it states, it says believing in the building of knowledge by constructing learning that is tangible, shareable, and concrete. As you can kind of tell, looking at the Lego Mindstorm pictures, the kids are actually creating an actual robotic product that they are studying and analyzing in different pieces as they have to kind of manipulate its movements and calculations. But they're learning a lots of different skills that go into building that. Again, we'll get into that later. Lastly, constructionism also supports a very learner-centered model that integrates technology. So constructivism, as we know in the past, and also continuing into the future, because I think if you believe in constructionism, you would almost have to be a constructivist in order to have those two collide together. But this is the extension of where technology really plays a hand in this tangible, or this more concrete piece, or this product in student learning. One of the things I wanted to share with you under Dr. Papert is his big ideas of constructionism. He boils this down into 8 basic ideas that really encompass this theory, and this is what would be happening in a classroom. Number 1, learning by doing. Kids aren't traditionally writing down facts or memorizing things. They're actually getting their hands and being empowered to actually take control of their own learning. They use technology as a building material. I'll get into this more in the practical applications of things, but in order to achieve the goals of learning, technology has to be a tool that they use in order to construct that meaning. Number three, I think it was really interesting because he talks about hard fun. If you love something and you're passionate about something, most often those things aren't necessarily easy, especially if you're trying to um, gain an expert level in that craft. You often find yourself into hard positions or to hard thoughts, but at the same time, you're okay with going through that hard time because you are associating what you are doing to a passion, and you're willing to have the grit it takes to work through that that required rigor. Number four talks about learning to learn. So the idea of, thinking about learning, the metacognition behind, the idea of learning, thinking thoughts is what I usually try and say to my eighth graders. What the process of learning and validating the process as kids continue to construct meaning based on what they are trying to achieve. Number five talks about taking the proper time for the job. So again, if this is something that is passion driven and this is something that is very student centered, then it's important to have kids understand the time it takes to do the job and do the job well. Number six talks about you can't get it right without getting it wrong. Kind of this trial and error concept that that uncomfortable feeling that we all get when we know that we're wrong, taking risks. These are things that often go hand in hand with constructionism, because if you think of concepts like we've all heard the concept of the light bulb. There were, 2,000 ways on which Thomas Edison, could tell you how not to create the light bulb, but then it was the one way that actually worked. Understanding this concept with kids and knowing that failure is okay is definitely a main thread in this theory. Number seven, I thought was really interesting because Dr. Papert really talks about the idea of showing our struggles, and the term "our" in this case means teachers. If we're going to validate student learning, student growth, challenge kids to think thoughts and take risks, then he addresses the concept of turning that back on us. What are we doing to share in the learning process, to share our failures, to show that with kids that we're taking risks and that we are trying to equally construct meaning using various tools and ideas. And lastly, number eight, he talks about navigating in a digital world. The digital world is as equally, and he will claim this, as equally as reading and writing. If we cannot make movement to navigate in a digital world, understanding how these tools can help construct meaning, and then ultimately providing experiences where it allows kids to use digital tools to construct their own meaning in their own way, then we're setting them up for failure as they enter into the real world and they don't know how to navigate or they don't know how to problem solve, which is what number eight speaks to primarily. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was the purpose of constructivism, and purpose of constructivism and its connection to constructionism. As you can tell, these isms and actions definitely can throw one person for a loop. But what I boiled this down to three things, and in terms of what I've had a chance to take a look at constructionism. The idea that it reinvents this idea of constructivism that we've known for so long, but the idea of specifically looking at technology integration. We know that 21st century skills and technology are continuously evolving, and it challenges the learner to really think about the learning process as a process, and then also it challenges us to integrate different or a variety of technologies so that meaning can be made. And in Dr. Pappert's case,